nothing.
He's playing opposite Joel McHale, as the other FBI agent, who of course does Talk Soup and has that new show coming out, Community. And he and Bakula are just hilarious together.
Well, not just Joel McHale, but like almost the entire cast, except for like the very main characters, are all comedians. Yeah. Like they went for stand-up comedians.
Yeah, they got Patton Oswalt as
Rick Overton as the CEO of Archer Daniel Midland. Yeah, Patton Oswalt and
Brad from Back to the Future.
Right.
Oh, not Brad, but what's his name?
Biff
from Back to the Future. Yeah, was in this. Yeah, and
Paul F. Tompkins. Like so many comedians would just pop up in this,
and then they go for the gold by bringing in Clancy Brown.
Right.
Clancy Brown.
Clancy Brown.
I thought you were going to talk about Tommy Smothers.
Well, that was actually something that was leaked.
Yeah, it's very weird. They do bring a lot of comedians. They bring in both Smothers brothers in this movie.
Wait, I didn't see the other Smothers.
He was
brother.
the judge.
Yeah.
No. I saw the one that was the judge.
But earlier they had the other Smothers brothers.
He was like a lawyer or something with a corporation. One of the high ups at the corporation.
He wasn't a lawyer. I think he was one of the main executives at another corporation.
Recognize him.
Yeah. Was it Tommy Smothers?
I guess that's Tommy.
Yeah.
It was Dick who was the judge.
Now, you know what we haven't mentioned yet?
What's that?
This is a Steven Soderbergh film.
No, I did mention it in the beginning, but we really haven't elaborated on that. So
yeah, this is the thing about this film is that Soderbergh does two types of films. He either does his weird little indie films that the mainstream isn't going to get, and then he'll do a big
that only he will watch.
But
you will.
It feels that way. Well, no, we've all seen all of his stuff for the most part.
Yeah, I know. Like going to see Full Frontal,
which was like watching something through a shitty aquarium. I couldn't.
Yeah, and then when it's over, you're like, wait, why'd you have me come see
what
this?
What just happened?
Yeah. Well, now this one looks like it's one of his mainstream films, but it really isn't. It's a lot smarter than it lets on. Like, you watch the trailer for this, and you're like, oh, it's a story about a putz who's an informer. And that's not what this film is at all. In fact, when it gets to its big kind of third act turn, the film almost feels like it's going downhill, like, oh, what happened? This was really funny, and now it's getting kind of heavy. But then it totally pulls itself out.
It feels like a mix of those two worlds of stuff he's done, because there's a lot of stylistic choices he makes in here that are very odd and reminiscent of the type of stuff he does in his artier things. Mm-hmm. And yet the way the story in general is handed is very much pop filmmaking.
Yeah, that's my problem with the movie, is that this is my problem with Steven Soderbergh and a lot of his things, even in some of his mainstream movies. I mean, he's had some tight films like Out of Sight, which I love, but my problem with him is mainly with like his first two what do you call it? Oceans movies, Oceans 11 and Oceans 12. That you follow these characters, and he's so in love with these characters that they just kind of meander around the story. And for the first half of this movie, I was extremely bored. And once you find out really what this guy's role, Mark Whittaker's role is in this whole thing, that's when it really pulled me in. But that's a reveal that, like I said, is literally halfway through the movie. Even the first half of the movie, it reminded me of, I was just talking to Leon about that movie Election with Matthew Broderick and Reese Witherspoon, where you have a guy who's talking to himself who, no matter what he does, he has convinced himself in his mind. He validates himself by saying, this is why I'm doing this. And, I'm right because, anybody else could see that this other person would do this and that. And it's just fascinating to hear how somebody just goes through life trying to validate every wrong thing that they do.
Well, it's like all the movies by one of my favorite directors, Alexander Payne, who did Election and About Schmidt and Citizen Ruth, where you have these main characters who are basically deceptive. They're self-deceptive. Yeah. I mean, they rationalize everything they do, and they never don't see themselves as doing bad. And he's that kind of character. And I have to agree with you, where for the first half of it, I'm like, you know what? It's, I like how stylistic it is. There's a lot of elements here that I like, and yet I think this movie is not as smart or as funny as it thinks it is.
Let me ask you
Steven
something.
Soderbergh can just be too cool for his own good. But in the second half, when the big reveal came, and to me, that was just like the biggest payoff in the world.
I woke up.
From that point on, I absolutely love that movie. I mean, it reminded me of Shattered Glass.
Yeah, that's exactly what it reminded me of. And let me ask you something real quick. Do you think that maybe the problem in the beginning, and this is for everybody too, maybe it was like a case of there was too much style in the beginning too, that kind of slowed the pace?
I completely disagree with you guys. I'm exactly the opposite from you. Is that I loved the first half of this movie, and when the reveal came, I was like, oh, whoa, where are you going with this? And like I was saying, it felt like it was headed into a nosedive, but it totally pulls out and gives a perfect ending for this story and wraps it up and makes it really satisfying. But it's one of those things where I really enjoyed the first half much more than the second half.
Oh, really?
I'm with these guys. I thought the first half was kind of dull, and then once the reveal happened, you're like, wow, where's it going? This has finally gotten interesting.
I know you pulling the call out through the whole thing. You were like, throughout the whole first half, you were sitting there like,
I was there like,
and you kept me from falling asleep, because every time I kept falling asleep, you're like, I was like, I'm awake.
Honestly, I was just a little hungover and choking down bile, but that's okay.
But I mean, I think overall, it probably balances out to like some of the movie is good for us, and some of the movie just kind of doesn't really reach that point where we could be fully interested. And I mean, it might be at different areas. With you was the first half, and then the second half, you don't like it that much. With us, it's the opposite. So I was kind of waffling between rental and matinee, and I really have to say, like, for myself, as much as I would like to recommend this movie, I was so bored by the first half that if I was to recommend this as a rental, I wouldn't feel bad about it, because I would watch it as a rental and feel like I got everything I needed.
I really liked the first half. I thought it was really funny. That's where all the really big laughs are. The second half, there's not as many big laughs, but that's where the meat of the story is. That's where the real story of what's really going on comes out. And and it's not that I dislike the second half. It felt like they weren't going to be able to pull it off, because it's like, wow, this got heavy and dark very quickly, and I don't know how they're going to pull. It doesn't seem like there's any likable characters left, but they totally do completely redeem it and make it a solid film. I give it a matinee. It is a very strong matinee. It's not a barnstormer by any stretch of the imagination, but it's definitely worth seeing. And there's a lot of really great performances and a lot here to like.
Well, I going completely opposite from you guys. To me, like, having the first half be that thing that was, kind of boring to me and not, wasn't doing it for me, only to realize it was setting up everything else that I absolutely love. I mean, I'm not just saying I love it like, oh yeah, I loved it. I really did. Like, I'm almost want to go see it again, or it's the kind of movie like I can't wait to buy so I can watch it, because it did all that stuff that I just dig so much. And even now, just hearing the NPR story to hear how accurate it was, that makes me love it even more. To me, it's a full price movie.
I feel like it could have been a full price movie, but there's a lot of stuff. For instance, his decision to film the whole thing as if it was in the 70s, that's so odd and took me out of it in a lot of ways.
Yeah, the 90s.
It's filmed as if it's in the 70s.
The opening
even
theme
though it's
is like even has 70s music.
Well, it's Martin Hamlisch did
Marvin Hamlisch.
Marvin Hamlisch did the score, and yeah, I mean that's the guy for that sort of thing, and it's very off-putting. I still can't figure out why he chose to do that, but it's this mix in my head. I'm kind of right down the middle. I'm gonna have to give this a peanut butter ice cream cake. Oh shit! I'm sorry. Low matinee. It's. I just can't stop thinking about all that good food Matt Damon must eat.
You guys still think I'm gonna be okay at the company, right? I mean, you guys are gonna take down the bad guys, but I'll be okay, right?
I think the corporate culture is going to change a little bit for you.
I should say so.